Alright, homies. Alright, everybody. What's up, everybody? We normally don't, talk about, like, a conversation with this, like, topic in mind for a long time. And what we're going to be, discussing is, Power Rangers, right? I know some of y'all, heard me in past streams about the state of Power Rangers that it's in, right? With, the auctions and the, Hasbro just basically, not giving a fuck about some of their properties, especially Power Rangers. What we're going to be doing is like talking about the state of Power Rangers, right? Like what's going on with Power Rangers, even though I already said it, but like let's talk about it in full detail, and let's look back on like the series, and if there's ever like a future for Power Rangers, what would it be? We're gonna be talking about that like in full, and we have this little article right here by comic book resources. Usually like a notable news site for everything nerd related, ranging from old school Marvel and DC to even like Star Trek, even some shit like Power Rangers, right? I sometimes don't trust CBR, for instance, because they had like this one article talking about, Marvel vs. Capcom could be coming back, but there are definitely some funny ass sentences that they've made about MVC. How like they treat like companies as if they're actual people. Like Disney felt bad.
Wow.
Companies don't feel bad.
Bruh.
But from the looks of it, this article has a lot of like, weight and passion to them. So let's like go over it, because this is kind of like, the basis of like, Power Rangers like as like a whole. And let's just like take a look and like read aloud of like, this person's like well-devoted thing by Emma Singer. An extremely loose adaptation of the 16th Super Sentai season, Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger, obviously. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers premiered on August 28th, 1994. Damn, that's like a year before my birth. Wow. The first time I watched Power Rangers was like when I was probably 7. And I watched the morph sequence of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers in the movie, the one with Ivan Ooze and shit. It was really like dope. I legit like, I got so pumped by that I legit flew out of like my bed. I was like lying down and watching it with my parents. I flew out, I did like a pose, and then my parents were like, my mom and dad was like, they side-eyed me, they looked at me like, huh? Like, damn. That's how you know they had like a weird child in their hands, which was me. And I'm super proud of that. In the 31 years since then, Power Rangers became a gargantuan piece of pop culture unto itself, with over 30 television series, 3 feature films, hundreds of comics, and endless merchandise. Damn, that like, yeah, 31 years, man. I remember, like, speaking of, like, Thanksgiving, right? There was, like, the one Thanksgiving back in 2013 or 2014, where the Macy's parade had, like, the actual Power Rangers on set. They were, like, doing choreographed scenes and choreographed dances and action scenes, and it was Power Ranger Samurai, of all things. Like, technically, like, the start of the bumpy, like, drastic downhills of what became the decline of Power Rangers. But anyway, let's like continue. Power Rangers has been a major part of my life as long as I can remember, and in all that time, the tropes, cliches, characters, and iconography of Mighty Morphin have dominated the brand. The Mighty Morphin era defined Power Rangers, and that isn't a good thing. Yeah, like, dude, there was a lot of shit that happened post-Disney era, post-Saban era. This was like Neo-Saban era. That's when we started seeing things in Samurai and Megaforce and Super Megaforce that, yeah, you don't have like a lot of substance and a lot of like girth or just like, you know, just actual good shit coming out of like these seasons. Rather, they're just more like, yeah, we're gonna like nostalgicize on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers a lot, and you can't say anything about it. There were just like Bulk and Skull. There was like the very nauseating like music of the 90s like Power Rangers. Everything's like, you know, starts off with the cliche, the tropes of Power Rangers, where it's like, oh, bad thing happened, we need to learn a lesson from this. Midway in, we need to learn a lesson about it. And then conclusion at the end of the episode is like, oh, lesson learned, moving on. A lot of heavy just usage on the Power Rangers Mighty Morphin brand. The Mighty Morphin Power Rangers brand. Just the Mighty Morphin aspects specifically. And it was ad nauseum in the later seasons of Power Rangers, right? It was so like, you know, a lot of the Power Rangers after had like a soul to them. Currently, apart from a single ongoing comic book run from Boom Studios, which is goated by the way, the franchise is in limbo. The over-reliance of Mighty Morphin is largely responsible for this, and only by finally leaving it in the past will the franchise be able to thrive again. Did not watch Mighty Morphin Power Rangers when it first aired. True, like the actual TV series, like if you were like an adult by that time, then maybe. But if you're like born in like in the 90s, who the fuck watched that when they were like 1 year old or like at the dawn of their birth? Maybe like if you had ingrained memories, like just psychedelic visions, like when you're inside your mom. Not to be rude, but like, yeah. Rather, the first season I was old enough to watch week to week was Wild Force. Oh, that's pretty good taste. Like, Wild Force was pretty good. It was like the last of the Saban era. I watched Power Rangers. Which season did I was so like in love with? Oh, it was, I think it was like Time Force. Yeah, Time Force. Time Force a lot. I like watched a lot, not just in VHS format, but also in like in cable television network. Yeah, it was Time Force. However, my older brother had been obsessed with Mighty Morphin in the early to mid 90s, and that meant we still had his old VHS tapes from the time I was 2 or 3 years old before I ever watched Wild Force. My brother was showing me these to me, and no matter how many times I watched the same episodes, I loved them. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is an exceptionally silly, cheesy, and cheap show. This is like the main thing that a lot of like, you know, fans will, you know, sometimes like miss on. Yeah, this is a show meant for kids. 5 teenagers with attitude get up in costume, summoned by like a giant bald head nutsack over here with his very like coward ass robot Alpha 5. They make them put on tight ass spandex, pose up a lot in a set, right? And they just say cheesy, corny lines to invigorate young kids that, hey, I can be cheesy but, you know, awesome like them, mom and dad. That's what they are. That's even like that in Super Sentai. One of the cool things about being a kid pre-streaming and for a bit pre-modern internet was figuring out how everything in a long-running show tied together. I had no idea what the episode order was for MMPR or the delineation between its 3 seasons, and it became a giant puzzle for me to solve. Making things even more fun was all the other seasons of the series were in syndication, meaning I wasn't just piecing together the storyline for one show, I was piecing together the storyline for 7 shows. Which is, you know, right, like, Power Rangers come and go, as they have historically have been. There's no, like, grand arcing, like, MCU style for Power Rangers. The only exception was the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, right? Mighty Morphin Power Rangers started off pretty cool, but by the time of like, you know, the first couple of episodes, they wanted to switch it up and introduce a green extra ranger, which is like kind of like a rival, but also like a later on extra member of the Power Rangers squad. So, and then of course it continued on because of that Tommy Oliver introduction, Jason David Frank, rest in peace, to the great man. It just spurred to make season 2 with, you know, some of like the same cast, keep the same suits, introduce the new swords, things like that. Then went on to like the 3rd season, keep the same suits, but alter them to have like ninja outfits because the themes going on were ninjas. Have like ninja and shogun swords, and then keep the same cast, but then they changed to Zio, but still keeping the continuity there, right? You see like these characters like grow and evolve, but over time it starts to get like stale because that's not like that in Super Sentai. Super Sentai, each season, I'm not trying to be like actually with Super Sentai. No, I love both. Right, but what I'm saying is like, yeah, each Sentai season was like their own unique characters and own unique suits. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers season 2 and 3 definitely missed out on the wardrobe stuff because they wanted to keep Mighty Morphin because it sells, it's advertisement. They're not going to switch it up to like, you know, what was it, Dire Ranger or Kaku Ranger? No, because Mighty Morphin sells. It was a huge fucking it was a huge, like, you know, cult classic. Even though it's not to the eye of, like, many, is a cult classic for a lot of other reasons. Serialized storytelling is almost always my preference, and I vastly favor the series' initial means of maintaining continuity as opposed to Lightspeed Rescue, Time Force, and Wild Force being their own independent stories that only each contained a couple of crossover episodes with the previous team, right? Which is also very true. That's what I've been saying, you know? Even with Power Rangers, after In Space, technically, In Space, Lost Galaxy introduced a new set of characters, a new rule that, yo, we can technically branch away from the Mighty Morphin saga and introduce other Rangers, other teams with their own stories, their own backgrounds that doesn't link to like the Zordon shit, but still can be engaging to younger audiences. Power Rangers matured. You don't have to be a 90s kid to understand how much of a gamble it was when Mighty Morphin Power Rangers transitioned into Zeo. Branding and iconography was synonymous to the series. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, had even enjoyed a theatrical release and changing everything. Even like they had a movie, dog. Ivan Ooze, the most charming fucking villain there is. Save for most of the cast could have been a disaster. And in a way, it was as the series' popularity dwindled over the course of Zeo and Turbo runs, which is obviously fucking true. Even with like the same cast, but with new suits, new swords, and stuff like that, the material was getting kind of stale. If shit like hit the fan with like Turbo, I know some people really like Turbo, but let's be real here. That doesn't mean, you know, at the time, it didn't do well with the numbers. We look upon it now in retrospect, but you gotta put it in the lens of like, if the show's like air running time in that year, like Turbo was like what, 2000s? And the series came out in like 1993. We had 7 years of this shit, my guy. Things are gonna get stale one way or the other. Things were so dire that Power Rangers in Space was set to be the last season of the franchise. Even like the Power Rangers in the back, they knew they were like, you know, not a lot of people like our shit now. In Space instead turned out to be the series' savior. And that's the thing, like, you know, the next paragraph is going to be about, like, In Space, but I could definitely vouch of what this writer is, like, talking about. Dude, In Space is awesome. It's not only, like, a lot of, like, crossover collaborations with older gen Power Rangers. You got, like, Adam, you got, Justin from Adam from Mighty Morphin, Justin from Turbo. You got all these, like, fan-favorite villains from the old Power Rangers coming into, like, In Space. It felt like, you know, everything was, like, gathering to In Space, but still introduced, well, there's, like, only 4 of the same characters that were from the previous season, Turbo, to In Space, but you have this, like, this Red Ranger, Andros, who is, like, an alien. And what set In Space apart from the Zordon era, yes, the whole objective was to get Zordon, right? And eliminate the forces of evil. But you had like this dynamic of Andros and Andromeda. Good guy ranger versus his sister, which is like an evil princess of evil. Then you later found out that like Andros and Andromeda were siblings, but Andromeda was taken away by some evil ass face monster, right? And was brainwashed to be evil by what was it? Dark Spectre. Yeah, Dark Spectre. And it brought this interesting dynamic that wasn't really shown in like Power Rangers. Now you have like dark elements of like, oh god, child kidnapping, oh stuck for the love, man. What the hell is going on with Power Rangers, man? They're getting dark. They're getting fucking dark. What the hell is going on? And then Andros has to like, you know, work with his team and find a way to get Andromeda back, like sort of shit. It was awesome. Who knew that Power Rangers could be this serious in tone? It was awesome. And then there was also in space the Psycho Rangers, right? Which is like a new concept to Power Rangers history. Of course, there are evil Power Rangers, you know, now. But what was really like stood out for like in space was that's also there, the Psycho Rangers. An evil squadron of Power Rangers. Instead of the usual hokey, cheesy Power Rangers that, you know, save cats from a building, save cats from trees and shit, and like put out fires and stuff. You have this evil squad of Power Rangers that are the total antithesis. This is like fucking Sonic to Shadow, Spider-Man to Venom, so on and so forth, right? Everybody loves evil versions of characters. It's like our DNA. We want to see something new and fresh. Hence the popularity for like, you know, Venom, especially like, you know, in movies and such, like Venom having 3 fucking movies. Because a lot of like die-hard adults are really like into Venom. Even though their movies are kind of okay. But people love Venom, bro. People love all the crazy Easter eggs and references. And of course, evil fucking characters. And after the years of poor continuity and only getting occasional drops of lore, this season fleshed out the interconnected Power Rangers universe and made something fans could be invested in. The post-Zordon era, or as I like to call it, the drama era, is composed of the 3 seasons between the end of In Space and the beginning of the Disney era. Lost Galaxy, Lightspeed Rescue, and Time Force. Yeah, these were definitely, I can vouch for that. These were like the drama era of Power Rangers. You know, each one had like some significant weight that made it feel very unique from one another. No one season was like piggybacking off of another. There are crossover episodes, sure, but those are crossover episodes. They don't like necessarily like tie in between one another. There's no like post-credit scene or like some cameo tease of like Doctor Strange's nuts. Each one was not piggybacking off of like Mighty Morphin. These incredible shows follow In Space's example more than any others, with each focusing primarily on character drama, on their own captivating lore, while maintaining an overall darker and more serious tone. This is what I like love about Power Rangers, right? This is like what I said long time ago, that yeah, Power Rangers is cheesy, is hokey, is nonsensical, it's wacky. But before the comic books came, this was dark as hell. And kids are capable of learning dark shit, right? We don't have to keep them safe. And it's not like, you know, desensitizing. No. I have my cousins watch Kamen Rider, and they have equally as dark and scary motifs and stuff like that. Equally as so is like the drama era of Power Rangers, dog. Lost Galaxy, you introduce a guy named, an example, Magna Defender. This cold ass dude walking around with like, you know, a sword mixed with like a shotgun or a bazooka. they call it a bazooka. They don't call it shotgun because, you know, censorship stuff. Or blaster. Sorry, yeah, blaster. His whole motive, the evil gang of the evil group of Lost Galaxy, right? They're like band of like insects or some shit. Scorpius, Trachina, shit like that. Scorpius killed Magna Defender's son in cold blood.
Bruh.
In the Japanese version, Gingaman, yeah, they made it out like his like little brother. The act is still evil, but yeah, like a little brother, that's also evil. But like, dude, Magna Defender is like literally a fucking literally the fucking Punisher. I lost my son. Now fuck everything else. I want revenge. I don't care if I'm branded like, you know, I'll sacrifice a kid, no problem.
Bruh.
Lightspeed Rescue literally had fucking demons. And you can't show demons at all in Power Rangers. They were literally diabolical ass fucking demons and the queen of demons from like, you know, an asteroid somewhere. Right? You have like these firefighters taking down the literal devil and the she-devil with big tits and long nails, Queen Banshira at the end of Lightspeed Rescue. And Time Force was humans versus mutants, like a thesis on racism, right? Like it was humans versus mutants. And at the end of the show of like Time Force is like, man, why are humans so evil? It's like, yeah, dude, these shows are fucking powerful and they have weight to them. And in my honest opinion, they triumph over like some of like the other like shows. The only ones like equally as so would be like, you know, in the Disney era with from Ninja Storm to RPM. They're equally as so, but they're very like lighthearted. They don't go in too deep with the dark material, because it is showcased under the Disney logo, so you can't show like, you know, child getting yeeted, you know, things like that. There was definitely a lot more risks with the drama era. Sadly, as consistently high quality as the series was through Power Rangers RPM, the success of In Space did not carry through to everything that came after it. That's very true. In Space failed to penetrate the mainstream consciousness the same way Mighty Morphin had, and every subsequent season received less and less attention. Hardcore fans spend all day explaining why Time Force, SPD, or Jungle Fury is the best season, but in the eyes of the general public, only Mighty Morphin exists. That's so true, man. Like, what the fuck is a Time Force? What the fuck is a SPD or Jungle Fury, man? To someone who's not been consistently like watching these shows and have been engrossed by them, they'll just think, oh, Power Rangers, it's the old suits from the 90s. This is literally like, you know, a similar example to fucking give a casual like a fighting game. And what did they think of like a fighting game? Oh, Street Fighter or Smash or Mortal Kombat. That's what the general public knows about like fighting games. You can't like train everybody to, you know, say what's their favorite season of Power Rangers when they don't maybe not have like an interest in them. The only one that like stood out was Mighty Morphin because it was the first of its kind when it came out at the time. You can't beat Mighty Morphin in terms of global like outreach. The suits were iconic, the cast were iconic, even though, well, let's not say until like maybe like after, but like, dude, Mighty Morphin is just that fucking popular. The series ratings were constantly poor with the Disney era only going on as long as it did because of how cheap the shows were to produce, and measures like Tommy's return in Power Rangers Dino Thunder were minimal effective attempts at saving a sinking ship with the power of nostalgia. To my dismay, the lesson learned from all this was that the key to making the series more successful was to lean even further into nostalgia and to recapture the magic of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Hence, where we're gonna go to now is the Neo Saban and Hasbro eras. Ultimately, just make everything Mighty Morphin. Every show Mighty Morphin. Capture the feel, capture the style, right? You know, things like that. Just make everything Mighty Morphin. Have no soul. By the time Power Rangers Samurai premiered, I was no longer actively watching traditional TV. I catch a few minutes of an episode here and there, and like many viewers outside the target age demographic, I wasn't impressed by what I saw. Same. What the fuck was Samurai Dog? Moving on. Too many longtime fans. Samurai Showdown, wow, was overly juvenile, a massive step down in quality from what had come before, and a half-hearted attempt at copying Mighty Morphin's formula, right down to featuring the return of Bulk. Yeah, that's true, they even had Bulk and Skull from there. What the fuck was the theme of Bulk and Skull? Let me just like say it. We can like do a little bit of like maybe copyright. What was it? MMPR, Bulk and Skull theme. 10 seconds, already copyright. 10 seconds, already copyright. However, for those paying attention, an interesting thing has happened in the Power Rangers fandom over the last several years. As kids grew up with the season, have aged into teenagers and adults. Power Rangers Samurai became one of the most beloved entries in the franchise. As we grow up, this is like, again, the nostalgia factor. Samurai was definitely like new. It didn't have the old cast, but it was Power Rangers at heart, and it was Mighty Morphin at heart. All of like the fight scenes, all of like the music, all of like, you know, the long like draining morphs, you know? It definitely felt like Power Rangers was back, and it appealed to those that remembered Power Rangers when they were like wee lads into like adults that like, yeah, this is the nostalgia factor kicking in, right? Which is remembering of old things long before their time, but now reinvigorated. That's nostalgia. When the Neo Saban era began, it was with a bang. The marketing push for Samurai was gargantuan, and combined with the airing on Nickelodeon of all shows. You know that skeevy ass television network that where iCarly, Victorious, Dan Schneider's fucking evil ass fucking shit happen over there? Nah. Nickelodeon was still pretty popular before the allegations kicked up, and before all their show material was like, oh god, I spit on my keyboard. Partnering up with Nickelodeon was like a huge boost in success. At that time, this was like kids crack. Nickelodeon was also the place where you had like the Slime Awards, where kids can be adults. The season reviewed the largest attention from mainstream audiences that the franchise has gotten since Time Force. Love or hate the season, it's as important to kids who grew up in the 2010s as Mighty Morphin is to kids who grew up in the 90s. 100%, right? I went to like high school in like 2000. Oh no, I went to high school in 2009. But dude, a lot of like our older like kids or in the 90s became like, you know, us kids, and time moves so fast that we will have like couples and stuff, and even like, you know, significant others, SOs, and we have children of our own, that whatever like, you know, thing comes after like our time, it's going to be their kids' time. It just like happens with life, you know? I see that like a lot, especially like with my nieces. You know those old shows like Nick Jr. and stuff like that, or like Sesame Street? That was like in my time, and I love Sesame Street, but that doesn't correlate to like a new kid, because their new kids' knowledge would be like, you know, Cocomelon or Bluey or, you know, things like that. That's their generation shows, and, you know, it just doesn't like, you know, jive well, right? Especially with like, you know, another series like Transformers. I grew up watching the Transformers anime shows. Armada, Energon, Cybertron. Those were like my shows in the early 2000s, right? When I get eventually like married and like have like a kid of like my own or child of my own, boy or girl, their Transformers knowledge would be from Transformers 1 or anything afterward. It's not going to be from my time. I can teach them my time, but they're not going to have the same like feeling or effect, right, as exactly as what I like watched. It's going to be similar, but it's definitely going to be unique because it's in a different year, in a different time, when, you know, things are 10 years from now going to be like safe and more censored, whereas back then you could just like get away with so much stuff. So it's like the difference, you know? Jade and Sheba, oh, the most iconic Red Ranger to a whole generation. I don't know about this sentence. Ew. And Lauren Sheba. I mean, Lauren Sheba is cool, but like Power Rangers Prime, I gotta like see this comic. Power Rangers Prime is like a new like comic that came out, and it has like a new form of Rangers. In the comics, they got like a whole fuck ton of Rangers. Ninja Rangers, Mutant Rangers, Dimension X Rangers with Ninja Turtles, things like that. They definitely go above and beyond. While I still don't love Samurai, I can now admit that besides some poor acting, it's on par with many earlier seasons, and I'd simply aged out of enjoying the show when it first aired, yeah. All that matters is that Samurai was a hit that revitalized the franchise, seemingly proving that the show had always needed to be more like Mighty Morphin. Having watched all of them in their entirety, my thoughts on the rest of the television series that followed Samurai are that they're a mixed bag. Dino Charge, Beast Morphers, Dino Fury, Cosmic Fury, solid shows, while Megaforce and Ninja Steel represent the absolute nadir of the series. All these seasons share an immense reverence for Mighty Morphin, and show it through their tone, tropes, and the old characters they bring back. The main difference is that the higher quality seasons were still willing to take risks in their storytelling, while the lesser seasons showed no greater ambition than wanting to mildly entertain kids for 22 minutes at a time. I could just like preach about this all day, yeah. Fucking Neo Saban era, especially like Megaforce, Ninja Steel, Cosmic Fury. I heard was pretty good. All of them brought back MMPR vibes. They're so MMPR. Like it felt like, comparatively speaking to like the drama era, the Saban era to the Disney era, right? All of the Neo Saban era stuff was just like, it felt so shameless. Like it felt like they were just void of originality whatsoever. You want to talk about like shows that had like, you know, just trying to copy and paste the formula? The Neo Saban era is one of them. Especially this one. Oh my god, I could talk about like a fucking storm on Megaforce, but no, it just get me hot and bothered. They're just trying to like replicate the show material from the 90s and trying to make it like mainstream, but ultimately like it doesn't work. It worked for like some of the past shows, like maybe Dino Thunder and things like that. SPD brought back the in space and Time Force suits and tried to reinvent them to play with their own to play with SPD's own world crafting and lore building, things like that. But at least it wasn't like egregious. Like it wasn't spoon feeding you like all of the Neo Saban era Power Rangers. They were just so apparent with trying to maintain Power Rangers. Like, again, to the younger kids, that's their Power Rangers. But for us, like, adults and teenagers growing up, this is not Power Rangers. This feels like we're way past Mighty Morphin. the long era of Mighty Morphin has passed. Where are like the shows that are like, you know, Time Force and things like that, you know? Whereas like the shows that are allowed to have risks involved and can show a lot of shit, you know? In 2016, Boom Comics began publishing what would be the first of many Power Rangers comics. Lord Draken and like, you know, The Darkest Hour and shit like that. Those are heavily revered with a lot of like Power Rangers fans. They are surprisingly good. Unsurprisingly, both of these projects were made by Mighty Morphin. Boom Comics were incredibly successful with hundreds of issues detailing a dark and serious story in an ever-expanding universe being released over an 8-year period. Yeah, Boom Comics started in 2016 all the way in like 2024. Dude, this shit was fucking making money. Power Rangers had all these like different things. Bro, we had like Battle for the Grid. And Battle for the Grid is a fucking like comic lore based Power Rangers fighting game. And it's awesome. However, for as good as the comics were, just like the show, there was an increasing sense of them being held back by Mighty Morphin. It's the show that like defined Power Rangers, but it's like definitely like an Achilles heel. Yeah, a lot of these other shows or these comic books or these movies all have like great potential to be something more, but are just held back because Mighty Morphin is in the label. By the time it was announced that no new Power Ranger seasons were being produced and that Boom would be ending all of its PR comics and only launching one new one to replace them, I wasn't surprised that the Mighty Morphin bubble had burst. Time and time again, Power Rangers has shown to have potential to be grand, imaginative, deep, and epic. After all, veering away from Mighty Morphin is what led to the dismal performance of the Disney eras. But those seasons didn't struggle because they weren't like Mighty Morphin, they struggled because they had poor marketing. And speaking from experience, atrocious time slots, yeah. Power Rangers in the Disney era would come on at like 7 p.m. That's fine by me. But like, back then Power Rangers would air on like Saturday morning WB for kids, things like that. Along with other like goated animated shows like Dragon Ball, Yu-Gi-Oh, One Piece, things like that. I still enjoy Mighty Morphin. I can still turn on an episode with friends who are less familiar with the show, same, and we can all have a good laugh. But when it comes to the future of the franchise, it's clear to me, and it's seemingly clear to Hasbro and Boom, especially Hasbro, who's done nothing but with the current state of being, which is not giving a fuck about their series. Cosmic Fury was okay for giving them original suits, but like the show material was nothing really too crazy. Once again, like trying to ride the coattails of Mighty Morphin, having like Billionaire and having all these old school Power Ranger like goats in there, that's fine and all. But the show material itself was heavily Power Rangers. Mighty Morphin specifically. The same old shit, no soul, no substance. Power Rangers shines best when they're not afraid to take gambles and long deep dives. However, Power Rangers has survived without it before and it can flourish without it now. Power Rangers Prime is the newest comic from Boom Studios. It is already aiming to prove this, and any upcoming TV shows and movies need to follow suit. 2017 should have been a landmark for the franchise. Instead, it bombed at the box office. This is primarily because general audiences couldn't take the property they only knew as a cheesy kids show from the 90s seriously as a mature teen drama with little focus on its action. Yeah. Even though like the story and like the interactions between the new set of like Rangers and the Power Rangers 2017 movie, it was really good. I watched it, but it was more like a Netflix show, right? Netflix prided itself on like conversation pieces, but for their action, they spend very little time on that, which is like, that's also Power Rangers. The fight scenes, the choreography, the Megazord fights, there was little to nothing They saved all that shit to like the very end of the show. No wonder. The formula for a successful new Power Rangers television series or movie is to give it the budget and marketing it deserves, to target the still active and passionate adult fan base that's eager for something new, to give it a serious but not grimdark tone akin to the Boom Studios comics, and for it to be entirely removed from Mighty Morphin. As enduring as Mighty Morphin's popularity may be, its reputation holds the franchise back and keeps it from finding new audiences. 100%. This is why, also in comparatively speaking, this is why Super Sentai is popping off more than ever. They can now like venture into other like thematics that is very different from like Mighty Morphin, and they could just like go ham. In the Reiwa season, we had a Gem Power Ranger season. We had an anniversary season, give or take, just like critically wise. We had a Power Rangers based on a fucking Japanese child story. We had Kings based on insects, and now we have, you know, race cars as Power Rangers. Sentai is like not afraid to, you know, take leaps and bounds into what they're like going for, and I think like, you know, that's kind of like the Power Rangers that we technically need, right? Power Rangers can definitely like go gamble in and try and venture like something like new, and we have seen this before, you know, historically with the drama era and the Disney era. You know, I'm gonna call it the drama era now. That's a nice like name for it. But as also modern history has shown us, like the companies that they've like partnered with like Power Rangers, yeah, it just doesn't like work out. They tried to like revitalize it with like Mighty Morphin to showcase it to like, you know, newer, younger audiences, but it doesn't work out. It doesn't work out. It may work out for the kids, but not for the sake of like the teenagers and adults that, you know, want really like good quality for, you know, Power Ranger shows that can be something more than, you know, Mighty Morphin ever like has been, right? And of course, like, you know, the Boom comics are really good because, you know, it's Mighty Morphin but dark. But even like that sentence alone, it's like, it's Mighty Morphin, so they have to branch out of like all of like the Zordons and stuff like that, all of like, you know, the Lord Zeds, all of the Rita Repulsas. There's more than just Mighty Morphin for Power Rangers. There's more than just, you know, the things that we saw like in the 90s. You can't just always like keep nostalgia on. Rather, just make like new stories. Like, if you want to see like a future of Power Rangers, first of all, don't be partnered with Hasbro, right? Because they pretty much don't care. Partner with like a company that, you know, actually like gives care and attention to Power Rangers, that respects it for, you know, being like bold, that it's more than just Mighty Morphin. Mighty Morphin is the landmark, is the trademark, right? But don't let it be like a crux that you have to depend on it. No, you shouldn't have to. When we have shows like Time Force and Lightspeed and Ninja Storm and SPD, Mystic Force, things like that, don't try to pedal back on the Mighty Morphin, you know, bandwagon. Rather, try and make something new. Try and like go deep. If you want to have like a future with Power Rangers, and I am a Power Rangers kid, right? As much as I don't like pay attention to the comics, I'm paying attention to them now. I have comic books on my shelf, and I'm definitely want to like get more. But the state of like Power Rangers, like this is the reason why I like fell off of like Samurai and things like that, is that they heavily use a lot of MMPR memorabilia. And you know what came with that? Like, it's cool for older fans, like, ooh, look, nostalgia, things like that. I can listen to the old sounds when I was a kid. No, it just left the other Power Rangers with no substance. Right? Like, Samurai, you know, albeit I kind of disagree with, like, you know, the article statement about Samurai being top on a business-wise. It revitalized it. But as far as, like, show quality, it just sucks ass. And even she said, and even the writer said, it's a mixed bag. Samurai, looking back at it now, has some cool elements, right? With like Decker and, you know, Lord Draken. No, sorry, not Lord Draken. Lord Xandar or some shit. Definitely, like, you know, go off. But it's just, it didn't hit right. What I want, like, for a future of Power Rangers is, you know, of course, as Power Rangers first and foremost, borrow elements from Super Sentai. The action scenes and stuff like that, the Megazord battles, even like the god-awful CG ones. But keep the suits, make like a new story, hire like enthusiastic cast members who want to do Power Rangers, right? Because that's like another thing, it's like, you know, the actors that play Power Rangers make or break. Power Rangers, like, in its history, had its fair share of like dank shit. Recently, there was like, you know, the Green Samurai Ranger actor, Hector Jimenez, that was charged for assault and battery because he pushed down an elderly man for all because of like a parking spot. And now he faces like court charges. There's a lot of like dank Power Rangers shit that like, you know, goes all over the place. And it's really saddening. There are even like sadder moments, like, you know, Jason David Frank, you know, passing away via, you know, taking his own life. Right? It's very tragic, you know. The life of like being like a Power Ranger is like, yeah, you can do it, but know that you're not gonna be a Marvel actor. No, a Marvel actor like now is like make or break for most actors in Hollywood. It's like you're entering Hollywood status. Entering a Power Ranger status is like, yeah, you're doing cheap gigs for like $9.95 an hour. Things like that. Even like back then, Power Rangers was a very like, you know, a small role in compared to like Hollywood. That, yeah, you just are not earning enough money. You're doing this shit for like kids, and it's like a bad rep. But as the consumer, we love it. But, you know, actors, right, they're also people as well. So yeah, that's what I think like a future of Power Rangers like can be, like, not to rely, make, like, of course, borrow elements from Super Sentai, but do not just heavily like piggyback off of like, you know, Mighty Morphin. Make something new, and Power Rangers definitely has the potential to make something. Do it, just do it properly. Show kids that, you know, they're not afraid to plunge in deep. Some shows can be like off like Dawn Brothers, because I don't think, well, I mean, now kids can like, you know, learn about the tale of Peach Boy with like a band of animals taking on Onis and stuff like that. Demons. But that would be still like, yeah, you can borrow like fucking, you can borrow like some of the other like absent things in Power Rangers, like fucking Tokuture, like trains. Make something as simple as like, yo, dudes love trains. Why not just make like a whole Sentai out of it? Or why not just make like a Power Rangers out of it and just like teach kids, you know, the imagination of trains? But that would be like leading in onto like the story elements of that respective show. But okay, that one's a little bit iffy as well. King Oger is definitely cool. You could definitely do something with that. You could definitely do you could definitely do Boom Boomger as well. If what they did for like RPM, which is like make it like Terminator-esque from their original show, Go Onger, which is all about happy-go-lucky shit, you could definitely do something with Boom Boomger. Make it like fucking like the Gran Turismo movie, or like, you know, Fast and Furious, things like that. So yeah, I definitely want to see like a new Power Rangers, and I am a Power Rangers fan. I love this shit. But if only it could be like done right. If only it had been given with the proper care and energy that it was given back then, before the Neo Saban era. Before the Neo Saban era and after In Space. Things like that. Because those shows, looking back at them now, are goated. But yeah, that's like our talk of like Power Rangers, what the state of it is and what the future could hold.